What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 12, season 2 of the Cherry Pickers. I'm your host, Gary Altizer, and I will be flying solo today. Unfortunately, Jim couldn't join us, but I did want to get something out for us just for week one. It's Christmas morning for all the football junkies out there. I know if you're anything like me, you are ready for today. So I wanted to put a couple things together for you guys on just a couple of the games that are coming out that I like. Right now, we don't have any system picks. System picks come in week 5. We need 4 weeks of information before we can get our system picks together. So right now, we're just going off of gut feeling and a little bit of the research that I did going through these games. Today's going to be a quick episode. So let's get right into it. Let's start with that Steelers game. Steelers are at Atlanta, and they were +4 when Russell Wilson was deemed the starter. At 11:31 today, it was announced that Wilson will be out. So Justin Fields will be in as the starter. That changes things immensely. Last I checked, the line had went up to the Steelers getting 4.5. I really liked this game with Pittsburgh getting 4, but with Wilson not in at quarterback and Fields stepping up, I'm staying away from this game. There's too much unknown. Fields did not look good in the preseason. He just didn't look comfortable in that offense. But you can't go by the preseason. You can't go by what you've seen. Not saying that he'll be great, not saying that he'll be bad. I'll just say that there's so much unknown about Justin Fields under center here, and really Russell Wilson too. So I'm staying away from the game from a betting standpoint. But there are a couple of narratives here that we need to keep in mind. Number one, the Steelers have a new offensive coordinator this year. That's Arthur Smith. Who is Arthur Smith? He's the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons went 7-10 3 years in a row, I believe, with Arthur Smith, or 7-9 and then 2 7-10s. His teams were always really competitive. They would lose games close, and he would do some really crazy creative things. I watched a lot of the Falcons while he was a head coach there. He does got a really bright mind on the offensive side of the ball. Some people think he's a moron, but when it comes to play calling, I like what he does because it's so outside of the box. But he is not afraid to try things. And I'm sure that he's going to really be pulling out the stops, going back to the place that fired him, that got rid of him in his first game. That's a great narrative. Great job by the schedule makers there. He loves the running game there. He absolutely loves to run the ball. And with a quarterback like Justin Fields, I could really see him getting Fields a ton of carries here. Fields is really going to have to get used to the way the Steelers do things. Who knows what's going to happen today? I don't know how much chemistry he's got with the guys here coming out in week 1. He did get a lot of reps in because Wilson was hurt. Wilson had a calf strain. And a calf strain, if you can't plant your feet as a quarterback, it's really tough to be comfortable and really tough to be loose while you're playing. So they had Fields take most of the snaps. I know Wilson played a little bit in the preseason, but he didn't look well either. Neither one of them looked very good. But there is some hope here because the Steelers did upgrade their offensive line. Pro Football Focus has them ranked in the top 10 of the NFL as far as offensive line rankings go, which is a great sign for them. They're coming in to Atlanta with a new offensive coordinator that likes to run the ball. Of course, you know their defense is going to be tough. Mike Tomlin always has competitive teams. They say what you will about the guy. You go as long as he has without a losing record or never having a losing record. This is the kind of game that I could see Pittsburgh winning outright. But with the changes at quarterback, I don't feel comfortable at all. Things have changed. A ton of things have changed in Atlanta. They've got a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins. They've got a new head coach. The head coach was a former defensive coordinator there. He is a defensive-minded guy. Everybody loves Bijan Robinson. He's been the sexy pick this week for fantasy, not only in season-long leagues, but, you know, for the daily fantasy sports world. Everybody loves him, is all over him for good reason. The kid is an amazing athlete. He can do all kinds of things. There's Kyle Pitts there, the tight end, who has not lived up to his billing. Kirk Cousins will definitely use that guy. Drake London as well. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. So this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a good game to watch. If I had somebody hanging me over a cliff, said, I'll pull you up if you pick a team here with the spread. The Steelers are at +4.5. I guess I would go with Pittsburgh +4.5 right now, but I'm not putting my money on it. Do what you will with that. I'm looking forward to watching that game. Our next game, we've got Cleveland, home team, -2.5 versus the Dallas Cowboys. Who would have thought a couple years ago Cleveland would be a home favorite here, but it's for good reason. That Cleveland defense has been strong for the last few years. They do have the best defensive player in the NFL, in my opinion, on the team. And, it's things that got to come together for Cleveland at some point, you'd think. With all the talent they have on this roster, with Myles Garrett being there, they've got playmakers on offense. What's holding these guys back seem to be chemistry, timing, and a little bit of luck. Deshaun Watson obviously is the huge key there. I read an article this summer about Watson that said he's had a lot of trouble in Cleveland because he just can't pick up the offense. Stefanski's offense is just too complicated for him. He's had a tough time picking it up. He never does seem in sync, and he never does seem nearly the player that he was in Houston. People say there's a lot of reasons for that, some off-the-field stuff. But as I continue to read about him in the offseason, Bill O'Brien, his former head coach, from what I understand, went to a Clemson playbook while he was in Houston. And that's when Watson shined. When he had a playbook that he was familiar with, it wasn't too complicated, he really did a great job. From what they were saying, the reason Flacco come in and did such a great job was he had used NFL playbooks, complicated playbooks a lot. He came in, picked it right up, and they flourished because they had a guy who really knew what to do in each situation with his experience. So really the key is going to be Deshaun Watson. He hasn't been healthy at all. He did have a couple. He had good games here and there, good halves here and there. The guy's talented. There's no doubt about it. Everything hinges on Watson and what he can do. On the other side of the ball, Dallas, they now are kind of coming into a new era without Tyron Smith there as the anchor on that offensive line. They've got a rookie starting there in place of Smith, and that rookie is going to have to go up against Myles Garrett. I think that is a huge win for Cleveland. If they can get to Prescott, if Cleveland can pressure Prescott and they can just move the ball a little bit on offense, I don't see them losing this game. I see them covering that 2.5. I'm not taking an official pick. There's too many questions with this Cleveland team. Watson is just not a reliable guy when it comes to consistency, so I'm staying away from this. But there was a big piece of news that came out of Dallas before this game, and it looks like that Dak Prescott has signed a $240 million extension with the Cowboys. Jerry Jones finally relented. They've been dragging this thing on forever. And so they're finally come to terms with Prescott and with CeeDee Lamb. Jerry Jones didn't want to spend that money, but he knew he had to. We've seen this with other teams and other players. These franchises are just going to have to get used to opening up their wallet and forking over the money. CeeDee Lamb is getting paid. Dak is getting paid now, but at least for today, they don't have to worry about that. That's kind of been a cloud over their heads all off season, is getting these two signed. Lamb was signed not too long ago. With getting Dak signed in the last 24 hours or so, that should help out. Mike McCarthy is back there as the head coach. The guy, he drives some people nuts. You watch him sometimes and you're scratching your head at what he's doing, but they still win games. So you got to give him credit for that. That is going to be probably a competitive game unless that offensive line falls apart and Cleveland just mauls them. That's where I think this game will be won or lost, is that defensive front and the pressure that they can put on Prescott. Now, they do got some talent there in Dallas. I think Prescott can get the job done if he gets the blocking. There's no reason they could have won this game, but I do think Cleveland's going to take it. I'm not putting any actual cash on that game, but it is Cleveland. Last I checked, just a few minutes before I went live, it was Cleveland -2.5 at home. So do what you will with that information. I know Browns fans are excited for this season, and for good reason. They've got the talent on that team. Before we head into some fantasy picks, I'm going to try to include some fantasy picks, some DFS picks this year. I've got a list of about 8 or 10 here that I like. I'm going to try to include that in with the picks against the spread as well. So before we do that, I do want to say, if you do feel like you have a gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER is there for you. They will provide you with the information and resources you need to tackle your gambling problem. Okay, I've got 3 games here that I like, possible fourth here against the spread, and most of these are dogs. I'm looking at some underdogs here. The first one is a crazy one, and I might be eating my words next week, but the New England Patriots are getting 8 points at Cincinnati. I'm taking the Patriots. I'm putting some clams down on this one. The Patriots +8. Cincinnati is notorious for starting the season slow. Some of that has been because Joe Burrow's been hurt. He's not hurt right now. Some of that has been just because they start slow. Last year, they started the season at 1-3 and took a beating from Cleveland, a 24-3 beating, but they didn't even look like the same team. Burrow was dealing with an injury that kind of lingered until midway through the season. When he finally got healthy, he was knocked out for the season with a different injury. The guy hasn't had the greatest injury luck on his side as a pro. He is healthy this year, so maybe those bad starts go out the window. Who knows? But I think 8 points is just too many right now for this team to be giving up. New England, hey, this is a brand new New England team or a brand new New England franchise. No Bill Belichick. So we'll see what happens there. Their new head coach is a defensive-minded guy who's very familiar to New England fans. They are going to struggle. They don't have a lot of talent on that team as far as the big playmakers go. The defense is going to be good. They have got defensive playmakers all over the place. The Bengals are going to be without T. Higgins. He's out for this game. So they're missing Tyler Boyd. He left in the offseason. T. Higgins is out. And Jamar Chase is actually dealing with an injury, and he wasn't cleared until just a day or two ago. So there could be some problems there as far as the receiving core goes for Joe Burrow. 8 points in week 1 of the NFL is just a lot to give up. Week 1 of the NFL, the way I like to think of it, is how football used to be, the old school way. Before there was tape. You don't have any tape on anybody, I guess, except for preseason, but how much can you rely on that? Not much. Week 1, you see goofy stuff happen all the time. I remember a few years ago, the Jacksonville Jaguars were tanking for that number 1 pick. They wanted that number 1 pick so that they could get Trevor Lawrence. And say what you will, they didn't want to win any games. Well, guess what? They came out as huge underdogs against the Colts. Phil Rivers was the quarterback there. That was a very tough Colts team that almost took out the Bills in the playoffs. They were like a play away from the Bills with some really poor clock management at the end of the game in the playoffs. That was a tough Indy team, and the Jags went and won. There were a lot of people who were in those eliminator contests where you have to pick one guaranteed winner each week, and then you eliminate that team from being picked later on. And something like 70 to 80% of everyone in the country had the Indianapolis Colts winning that game, and they lost to the Jags. So you see crazy things happen every year in week 1. There isn't film out on the starters. Every year things change in the NFL a lot anymore. There's like a 40% turnover in your roster every year in the NFL these days, which is crazy. So you can't go by what you saw the previous year. There's so much turnover. There's coaches leaving all the time. Things change so much. Week 1 is just a free-for-all. I think 8 points is too many. I'm going to make that an official pick. I'm going with the New England Patriots +8 at the Cincinnati Bengals. The next game on the list seems to be one that everybody is gravitating towards, and everybody likes the Chicago Bears at -4 taking on the Tennessee Titans. We all know why, because Caleb Williams is there. He's the starting quarterback. The kid's got a great arm. I saw some throws in the preseason from this guy that were Mahomes-like. He's running to his left. He's off balance. He throws the ball 45 yards in the air, a perfect dime. The kid's got some crazy, crazy skills. But this is still the Bears to me, and they've got to prove it first. Giving up that many points with a rookie in his first game ever in the NFL, I don't like that. Will Levis is coming back for Tennessee. The Titans have a nice receiving core with DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley and some other guys there to throw the ball to. They haven't had a great offensive line. They tried to address that Levis, say what you will about him. He's a rookie that has really shown flashes. He's a big guy. He's almost like Josh Allen light. Whether he'll live up to the potential he has, we don't know. He does show flashes of it. I just think a rookie in his first start, even with all the new shiny toys he has to throw the ball to, Keenan Allen came over. He's obviously got a couple of guys that have been there that have really had some success. I think the Bears are headed in the right direction. Eberflus, I don't know. I think he's trying to do what he can. I seemed like he was a guy heading in the right direction. So I'm glad to see they didn't give up on him. Too many coaches are giving up on too quick, if you ask me. But I think he's on a very, very short leash this year. If things start out bad for them this season, I could see them getting rid of him during the season or just after the season, cutting ties, calling this year a wash while Williams gets some work under center. But I'm officially taking the Tennessee Titans +4 at the Chicago Bears. Lock it in. The next game here, this one was one I kind of went back and forth on a bunch, but I do think that the Arizona Cardinals getting 4 points at Buffalo is a good bet against the spread. This Cardinals team is a well-coached team. They are super creative with the things that they do on both sides of the ball. They're not going to have a great defense this year, and their offensive line is going to be a question. But Kyler Murray is back healthy, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is there. They've got some guys that can make plays on offense. James Conner's still there. That old Steelers running back, he's still there. He's getting the job done. The guy just finds the end zone every season. He just does a great job. He's a guy you love to root for. But this Arizona Cardinals team was a tough out last year, playing with 4 different quarterbacks. I mean, Josh Dobbs was there, and he had a crazy year where the whole entire country was rooting for him. And they were winning a couple games, here and there, but they were staying close. And they covered in 8 of their games. To go 8-1 against the spread last season with the roster that they had, sending out fourth. And I think the week that they played the Browns, they had some guy just come off the street and suit up, or a guy hadn't taken a snap in the NFL before. They really, really impressed me last year. Buffalo's tough. Everybody knows Buffalo's tough. But Buffalo, either they're going to win by 40 or they're going to lose to a team they shouldn't lose to. I remember a few years ago, they were the best team in the NFL, and they went to Jacksonville and got beat. Scratching their heads. What the heck goes on there? I don't know. Josh Allen, crazy gifted guy. Huge arm, he can run all over the field. He's got a cannon. He can thread the needle like vintage Brett Favre, but he also really can make some boneheaded plays sometimes. His decision-making at times, I could not imagine being a Bills fan and the frustration you see with the talent that they have, the ceiling that they have, and every year just really underachieving. Maybe outside of one year where they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs in a crazy game. I guess that they did live up to their potential there. But other than that, they have not been the same team. And in the playoffs, they seem to just not ever do what they need to do to get through. The Cardinals just seem so well coached. Kyler coming back healthy. I like this game. I'm not confident in any of these games. So take this advice with a grain of salt. These aren't official system picks. This is just me talking out loud, wanting to have some fun here in week 1 of the season. So I'm going to take the Cardinals +4 at Buffalo. All right, the last game here, Monday night game. I got on my Christian McCaffrey jersey here. It's the San Francisco 49ers who are taking on the New York Jets. The Niners are at home for this. Everybody remembers what happened last year on Monday night. Aaron Rodgers went out with a torn Achilles 4 plays into the season. The good thing for him is that he's had a full year to recover. There was talk last year that he was going to come back the last handful of games and try to get the Jets to the playoffs, because they did play some really competitive ball last year, dealing with the quarterback situation they had, which was awful. But they decided not to. They erred on the side of caution, which was very smart on their part. They have a really great defense. That defense is tough. It's going to be one of the top defenses in the NFL this season if everything stays the way it should and guys are healthy. and they don't lose anyone during the season. But I'm picking the 49ers here, -4 at home. First off, Robert Saleh. Who is Robert Saleh? He is the former defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan knows this guy well. He knows that defense well. They played against that defense in practice every single day while he was there with the 49ers. The 49ers now run a defense that is the exact same as the one that's ran by the Jets. Brock Purdy's back. He's healthy. He had another great season last year. I think we can comfortably say the guy is a good quarterback. You didn't know at first because Kyle Shanahan really uplifts the quarterbacks on his roster. We've seen that with Garoppolo and some of these other fringe NFL guys where he's got some of them in the NFL record books for some of the things that they did while they were a 49ers quarterback filling in for Garoppolo, who was hurt 60% of his time in San Francisco. And you saw what Garoppolo did last year when he went to Vegas. He just isn't a good quarterback outside of a backup to Tom Brady or being with Kyle Shanahan. But Brock Purdy is back. Deebo Samuel's there. Brandon Ayuk's saga is finally over, thank God. Trent Williams is signed. The biggest signing of the offseason for the 49ers was not Brandon Ayuk. It was Trent Williams, the best tackle in the NFL in the last half decade. The guy's a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. That offense does not work without him, but he's back. He's healthy. He signed a contract to finish his career, hopefully with the 49ers. They are back. 49ers defense is back. The only thing that kind of changed for San Francisco was they got a little bit less depth on the defensive line this season. They lost Eric Armstead, who was a real anchor on that defensive line and helped them a lot. They did sign a couple of guys. Malik Collins and Leonard Floyd are coming over to play on that defensive line for the 49ers. They're still going to have some rotational guys. Bosa, he's still there. But they're not going to have as much depth as they had in the past. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. They're going to have to get to him. A fun fact, Leonard Floyd, who plays for the 49ers now, is the guy who played for Buffalo last year that tackled Aaron Rodgers and tore that Achilles. So I can imagine Leonard Floyd is not going to sniff anywhere near Aaron Rodgers in that game. If that Jets offensive team, if their coaches are not making sure Leonard Floyd is taking out of this game, then I would bail on the Jets immediately. Leonard Floyd has given Aaron Rodgers nightmares for a year now. But you know what? Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game. And I'm saying that as a 49ers fan who rooted against him for his entire career until last year when he was with Green Bay. Watching that guy do some of the things that he did, he's probably the most accurate passer that we've ever seen in football. And I know that's a bold statement. I'm a guy that loved Steve Young and Joe Montana as a kid. Patrick Mahomes is in the league. We've had Drew Brees, guys like that. But he is so pinpoint accurate. It's scary. It's not even fair sometimes how good he is. Whether or not he's got that chemistry built with these guys, I don't know. It hasn't mattered who he's had as his receivers, as his targets. He's built chemistry with them all. I would think with the time that he's had there, he's had over a full year to work with these guys. He's probably going to be fine. But I think being at San Francisco, I think being that this defense with the Jets, being just the same defense that this Niners offense sees every day in practice, being that Kyle Shanahan pretty much owns the guys who have moved on to head coaches that were under his umbrella. He's got a handful, maybe a half a dozen guys, 4, 5, 6 guys who have went on to be head coaches in Green Bay. In L.A., Sean McVay is with the Rams. The guy's been to 2 Super Bowls and he's won 1. And Kyle Shanahan hands him his butt every year. He knows his guys inside and out. He's the one that kind of mentored these guys. He's really, really done a great job with going up against guys that have been former coaches for him. Saleh was with him. I think Kyle Shanahan and his bright offensive mind is going to have something for this Jets defense, even though it's going to be really good. It's a home game for the 49ers. It's Rodgers in his first game, full game with the Jets, if he stays healthy. I like San Francisco -4. Not real confident on that one. I'll take a 1-point win as a 49ers fan. I don't care. But hey, there is 53% of the cash on the Jets and 74% of the tickets are on the Jets. That means 74% of everybody that's bet on this game have taken the New York Jets against the spread. Everybody's confident in this Jets team. Hey, this 49ers team is coming back like a well-oiled machine. They also have a new rookie on the offensive line, Dominic Puni from Kansas. He is a really bright spot on this line through the preseason. He could really be a stalwart and an anchor on this offensive line to help Trent Williams, who's kind of there doing his job on his own as far as playing at an elite level. John Feliciano, a guard for the 49ers last year, who was a journeyman, come in and played the best ball of his life. He graded 86% for the season in PFF, which made him like a top 10 or top 12 guard in the entire NFL. He had a really great season. He's out for the first 8 weeks. Puni's filling in for him. So hopefully the 49ers don't miss a beat with Puni coming in. He looked just like an absolute mauler. He's a huge, strong kid, and he's a great run blocker. That's where it needs to excel for the 49ers. So we'll see. It hasn't mattered who they've thrown out there. The only time it matters is when Trent Williams is gone, but he's healthy. I like the 49ers -4. Lock it in. Those are your 4 picks here from the Cherry Pickers. Before I move on to some of these fantasy picks here, I just want to say one more time, if you feel like you have a gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER is there for you to give you the resources and information you need. Okay, guys, we're going to finish things up now. I've got 6 different picks here for you on the DFS side, the Daily Fantasy Sports side. I'm going to go with the first one, Kenneth Walker in Seattle, over 15.5 rushing attempts. Seattle likes to run the ball. They've got a new head coach in there. This guy, when he's healthy, he's a real good running back. He can really move the chains for that team. This is a whole new team. I think that he's probably going to be a bell cow for them. Kenneth Walker over 15.5. Second pick here, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown over 82.5 yards receiving. He torched the Lions. The Lions and Amon-Ra torched the Rams last year in the playoffs. I think he had 115 yards or so receiving. He is obviously still the man there. Goff is still there. They've got a great connection. I'm going Amon-Ra over 82.5. The next one, I think this one's a home run. Brock Purdy under 32.5 passing attempts versus the Jets. I think that he only went over 32 passing attempts last season in 1 or 2 games. I don't know if they think the odds makers think this is going to be a shootout, which there's no way with these 2 defenses. It's probably not going to be that way. It's going to probably be a control the clock and field position game. I'm going Brock Purdy under 32.5 passing attempts. The next one, Raheem Mostert. This one seems kind of low for me. I know they move the ball around. They get a lot of guys the ball in Miami, but I'm going with Mostert over 10.5 rushing attempts there. Yes, they do got a couple backs, Achane and Mostert, and they even let Tyreek run the ball some. But I think Mostert is the best every down guy that they've got. Achane is a crazy explosive guy. He's not a volume guy, but Mostert is. I'm going with Mostert over 10.5. This next one here, this one's a real this one was a real tough one for me to do. Terry McLaurin, over 4.5 receptions with Washington. There's a new quarterback in Washington this year, Jaden Daniels. He's a rookie, but I would imagine the rookie is going to lean on a veteran guy who has produced with every quarterback he's had there. Buckeyes, this guy, Terry McLaurin, is a special guy. I think that he should get 5 to 7 receptions. So I'm going with Terry McLaurin over 4.5. Gardner Minshew, this is a tough one. I'm not making this one an official pick. I'm just throwing it out there. They only have him at 7.5 rushing yards. If I had to take one, I'd take him over 7.5, but I'm not putting my money on it. Do what you will with that one. The last one that I got here is Jaden Daniels from that Washington team. They have the over-under at 39.5 rushing yards. The guy had a 91.5 rushing grade in college last season with Pro Football Focus. He was the best runner in the country last year. There's no way they're not going to utilize that. And rookie quarterbacks that run usually do good at the beginning of their rookie season. They usually default to that when they get into pressure situations. They're not trying to force the ball as much as they probably will later in the season. They're trying to take care of the ball. It's been preached to them. Ball security, ball security, ball security. So you get a rookie out there, Jayden Daniels, who's an amazing runner. The kid can really do something with his legs. 39.5. I'm going with over. I think he gets over 50 yards today. So that will wrap it up for the fantasy picks, the DFS picks there. So with the 4 official picks there with against the spread and our fantasy picks, hopefully that's enough for you guys to take some information and maybe have some fun today. Don't bet anything more than you can afford to lose. Have fun with it. It's Christmas morning for me. I hope it is for you as well. So here I am for Jim Bailey, who can't be here, and DJ Yoakley and Brian Scott back at home base. I'm Gary Altizer. Thanks for tuning in to Cherry Pickers, episode 12, season 2. Thanks for tuning in.